This video is for the formative key for Unit 2, Skill 5 on implicit differentiation. As we showed in class, implicit differentiation is a method that's used when we can't get the y term by itself. So when I look at the level 2 question, I know that this is an implicit differentiation problem because the way it's written, we have y cubed and y. So trying to rewrite this equation in a form of y equals is going to be really difficult. And even if we can do it, it's still going to be in a messy setup that's not going to nicely differentiate for us. Or that we'd have to differentiate in a piecewise manner. So I'm going to go through this problem. I'm going to go through it the long way by turning the y's into f of x's and explicitly showing the chain rule. If you feel as though you can do this more efficiently by skipping this step, that's perfectly fine. So in step 1 for me, I'm going to rewrite this problem 2x squared times f of x, quantity cubed. And again, my rationale for doing that is to show both A, y is a function of x, and B, this term is a chain rule term. It's the f of x function composed into the x cubed function. X equals x. And now, as we saw in class, my strategy is to solve for f prime of x. So on the left here I have a product, so I'll apply the product rule. 4x times f of x quantity cubed plus the derivative of f of x quantity cubed, which via the chain rule is 3x squared times f prime of x. So there's my product rule, plus the derivative of f of x, which is f prime of x, equals 1. Next, again, my goal here is to actually solve for f prime, the derivative. So I'm going to take those terms that involve an f prime and leave them on the left. I'm going to move any term that doesn't have an f prime to the right, and there only appears to be one of those. And now I'm going to factor f prime of x out on the left. By factoring it out, I'm left with 3 f of x quantity squared plus 1 equals 1 minus 4x times f of x quantity cubed. My last step will now be to solve for f prime of x by isolating this term and to rewrite the entire problem back in terms of y. So my final answer becomes y prime equals 1 minus 4x y cubed over 3y squared plus 1. At level 3, I continue the theme that we've seen for the last couple of weeks, that being the tangent line problem. So again, as I see this, the first thing I identify with is the word tangent. And ultimately it says for a tangent line here, so I know ultimately I'm going to want an answer in the form y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Okay. So the first thing I do is I'm going to need a derivative. No problem. I'm going to take my derivative implicitly. And unlike the level 2 where I showed every step in the change from y to f of x, I'm going to go right to the punchline here and leave everything in terms of x and y. So I'm going to see my product, 2x squared times y. I'm going to do the product rule. 4xy plus 2x squared y prime plus y squared plus 2xy y prime equals 0. Next, again, I'm going to group all those y prime terms together. So I have 2x squared y prime plus 2xy y prime equals negative 4xy minus y squared. I'll factor the y prime out on the left. And then finally, I will solve for y prime by dividing both sides by 2x squared plus 2xy. In this particular problem, I was already given both the x and y coordinates. Not only is that convenient, but that's also going to help me to finish. So I have y prime such that x is 1 and y is 1. So I'm going to go back into my y prime I just found. Negative 4 times 1 minus 1 squared over 2 times 1 squared plus 2 times 1 times 1. So I get negative 5/4. And now I am ready to write my final answer. Y minus 1 equals negative 5/4 times x minus 1. Great. And now we'll move on to the level 4 problem. So in level 4, the challenge is we are going to get more complicated with all the steps that need to be taken in order to do the implicit differentiation. So I'm looking at this question here. Much like the level 3, I'm going to first go ahead and I'm not going to rewrite it as x and f of x. I'm simply going to leave it as x and y here. So what I see in level 4 that jumps out at me is that I have a product rule, but then here I'm going to have the chain rule. So I have a few things going on. Okay, here we go. So the left side, I first have that product, so I'm going to do the product rule. Y plus x y prime. Plus now I have the chain rule with a product embedded inside of it. The derivative of sine is cosine, still composed with xy. And then I have the product x times y again, so once again I'll get y plus x y prime. And of course the derivative of 10 simply equal to 0 there. Next, as is always the case, I'm going to lump my y prime terms together. But before I can do that here, I'm going to actually distribute. So I now get the following. Y plus xy prime plus y times cosine xy plus xy prime times cosine xy equals 0. Now I will go ahead and pull out the y primes. And I now have the following. Y prime times, or actually let me do one more step first. Let me get everything with y prime on the left, and then let me put everything without y prime on the right. So I have x y prime plus x y prime cosine xy equals, since there was just a 0 on the right side there, I can just move those other two terms over. So I've got negative y minus y cosine xy. On the left, I will factor out the y prime. So I have x plus x cosine xy equals negative y minus y cosine xy. And now I'm going to finish this problem by doing the following. I'm going to divide through, giving me this. Now, important note, this is a correct answer, but on the AP test, when this question showed up, this was not the answer given. The answer given was this. They took this one step further and factored out a y from the top, or a negative y, I should say, leaving us with 1 plus cosine xy. And they took an x down at the bottom, leaving those with 1 plus cosine xy. Crossed those out and left an answer of negative y over x. So as we say all the time, this answer right here is correct. But simplification is always relative to the multiple choice answers. And in this particular case, I have options with the multiple choice answers, or I would be shown multiple choice answers of negative y over x. And that completes this video.